All right. All right. Awesome. Oh, what's up, guys? This is Jordan with the Shining Force channel here. And I was just coming to you guys with a quick video today where I wanted to speak on a subject that has been rising in the media over the past year and is definitely going to be an increasing issue here. So I just wanted to offer my particular expertise in this area because I believe that I may have a little bit more experience in this field than the average person. And that subject is on homelessness and how where the issue resides and how we can work towards resolving homelessness for the majority of people in the United States of America. Because, I mean, homelessness has been an issue in the United States of America for a long time that specifically affects certain areas much more intensely than it does other ones. New York City is one of the places that homelessness is rampant, but more so on the West Coast, in the Southwest, and in the South, actually, we experience homelessness at an extremely high frequency just because of the weather, things like that permit them. And on the West Coast, there are lackadaisical laws against, things like squatting, looting, prosecuting, theft, and stuff like that. These are all things that encourage, certain types of people to migrate to certain areas. So really what I wanted to do was give a general overview of my thoughts and opinion on the problem. And then I wanted to specifically address something that alarmed me to the point where I kind of wanted to make this video in the first place. But my overview on homelessness in totality is that it's terrible. Honestly, it's not something that I would ever wish on anybody. I don't want anybody to ever experience that. It is a harsh reality that we face here in the world. The majority of people in the world do have shelter, but not what we would consider in the United States adequate homes. But I'm not going to talk about the global aspect of the issue. Right now, I just want to talk about the domestic nature of the problem. And domestically, we deal with that with an archetype of people that I'm not going to sit here and say that there's only one type of person who ends up homeless, because that's just completely false. The truth is that people from many different walks of life will experience things in said life that will lead them down a path that will get them into a position where they could be without a home for a certain amount of time, and that renders them technically homeless. That is one aspect and one definition of it. But then there's a whole other element to homelessness of the vagabond culture, where you're homeless by the characteristics, or as almost like a personality trait. There are some people out there who do enjoy living their lives like boxcar children, essentially. Do I think that's the majority of people in that world? No. No, I don't think that is. Do I think that a lot of them have an issue that could be physically? There's people with there's people with ailments, disabilities and stuff that limit their ability to succeed in life. That's one aspect of it. There are people with emotional and mental illnesses and diseases that are preventing them from having success in ways that could, help them to maintain shelter for themselves. All those things are very real. And then there's a culture of capitalizing off of charity cases, I guess I should say, based off of people's accounts that they give from being in and out of homeless shelters. What I mean by that is that, a lot of these homeless shelters are supposed to be for the betterment and treatment of the homeless people, but it unfortunately goes a lot of those shelters are unfilled. They have empty beds at night and stuff like that because of the weird rules and regulations that they have about when you can enter and when you can exit the facility. And then also They have rules on, of course, you have to be clean of substance and things like that. I'm really just breaking down the basics so we can get to the actual core of the issues that I really want to address. But I'm saying all this to say that by no means do I think that this is some non-existent problem or something that doesn't that is a simple fix. There's definitely nuance to be had in this conversation, and I just want us to be mindful of that as we address it. Now, I say all of that to say that most people who even care about homeless people, which, you may or you may not, but if you do care about homeless people and want to actually help to resolve the issue, the fact that the systems that are put in place for homeless people to get back on their feet and stuff like that are really more so for the organizations to capitalize off of the benefits that they get from providing the minimal charity that they do to the minimal amount of people that they help. That is something that has to be addressed first and foremost before we can talk about getting the people who are pooping in the streets of San Francisco and San Antonio or whatever city it is there in Texas that they're experiencing. I believe it's a couple of them that they're experiencing heightened issues with this. And it's not just about displacing the people and, get them out of sight, out of mind. We actually want to help to destroy the culture that promotes the continuance of homelessness from both sides. On the corporate side, with the basically the very aggressive housing market that we're in right now, mixed with the culture of, how can I say it? The lack of actual resources for a person who has the ambition in order to make themselves something more than what they are as a homeless person. The resources are very convoluted. I'm not going to say that they're not there, because then that would make it like I was ignored. Basically, I don't want it. It would be very easy for a person to say, look at all of these resources. And if I sat there and said that there weren't any, they'd be like, no, you're absolutely wrong. And it would quickly invalidate what I'm saying. There are resources, but the strategies of these resources are not aligned to actually, empower these people to turn their lives around. I know I've said a lot of stuff, but in a roundabout nature, what I'm pretty much saying is that homelessness is never just a it's pretty much almost never just a financial issue. There's always going to be some second issue. It's like comorbidities, how they said everybody died of COVID, but they really died of this, that, and the other. That's the same thing. Homelessness because of finances, but it's really you're homeless because you can't maintain a job because you're an alcoholic, or you have some emotional issues, or somebody touched you in a funny place when you were young and stuff like that, and you just don't know how to process that. Regardless, there are a lot of ways that these people end up in these places, and once they get to that status, it is very hard for them to move out of it. That's super important, that we have to keep that at the forefront of our mind, because the only way that we will eliminate the culture of homelessness in the United States of America is by tackling the mentalities, emotions, thoughts, and patterns that get people to those places. And there is, once again, just to say, my experience with this is that I've been homeless 2 times by the age of 18. And in both times that I experienced homelessness for myself, both as a child and as a young adult, I will be honest enough to admit that if I had been focused and had the right mentality, there were things that I would have done in order to prevent myself from continuing to be homeless, right? So I know that now, and hindsight is 2020, and I'm so hopeful it's not even funny right now. I'm not a homeowner, but I will be before I'm 30 years old. But I say all that to say that will never, for as long as my God-given grace, I'm alive, it will never be something that I have to worry about, because I know my mentality will just prevent me from ever being in that position once again. But it wasn't easy, and it's still not easy to mentally get past that. And I still think about a lot of those times right now and kick myself for not having mentalities that I have now back then, because I would have been, who knows where I would have been. I can't say that I would have been in a better position, because we just can't, butterfly effect and all that stuff. We can change one variable, but that then goes ahead and changes the rest of the equation. I would like to think that if I had gotten this information a little bit earlier, I would have been in a more successful position, but it's neither here nor there. Life is what it is. I can say that right now I know and now have the avenues and resources that I would never allow that to happen to myself again. It only came from a mentality where I got past the point of giving up, got past the lowest points that I was at in my life, and then started to pick myself up and really analyze how I can make my days here on this earth better day by day, because it wasn't getting any better. Nobody was going to be giving me access to a better quality of life. And the few people who did feel sorry for me, sympathy or empathy for me, it quickly wears out when they really don't understand the severity of the issue or what you need. A lot of those people, even people who were on my team, didn't know how I was inside, the underlying issues as to why I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing for myself that were preventing me. And I don't blame them. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you should have known. You can't, because it's way too complicated to do that. Like, people are so complex and we don't even know what prevents us or what harms us and limits us and inhibits us and stuff like that. So imagining somebody else on the outside to look at you from the outside and get into that and access that and know exactly what you need to better yourself is damn near impossible. It's wishful thinking at best. That is exactly what is the problem with the culture of homelessness and how we deal with it in America. There are deeper issues that have to be addressed, and the resources have to be implemented to appropriately allocate them. Sorry, the sprinklers are on over here. In order to get the help to the right people, to make sure that it's not a problem that we put a Band-Aid on, but we're actually stopping. So, getting back to the topic at hand and how we can address this currently in the United States of America, the reason that I'm making this video right now is because last week tonight's previous episode had a segment that their main segment, which, you know, they always put them out for free on YouTube if you ever watch anything like that. Basically, they put out the segment about homelessness, and John Oliver came to the conclusion that in order to solve the issue of homelessness that is rising here, basically it's the simple answer of just giving people homes, providing homes for people. Now we can really get into the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about. I gave everything else that I did in the beginning of the video to let you know a little bit of background about me and let you know that I have had the personal experience in this regard that I'm speaking about. I've experienced this firsthand. To kind of break down that at least my thoughts and opinions on the issue as it stands, you know, across the boards, meaning for other people besides just myself, saying that homelessness is way deeper than a financial economic issue. It's deeper than racism or whatever they want to say. It's deeper than all of that. When you sit here and say that the answer to homelessness is simply giving people homes, what you're doing is you are truly, truly belittling the issue. You're oversimplifying it in order to, how can I say, make it seem like they strategically oversimplify it to make it seem like this is something that should have been fixed by prior presidencies, by prior, you know, politicians. Basically, like, oh, duh, it's a no-brainer. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a homeless person, just put them in a home and that's going to solve the issue. And that's just not the case. For all of the people, they use an example of a cute little veteran man who, you know, he came and was provided this living facility that's all veterans and they all get out, and he's, you know, talking about, hey man, sometimes I just go for a walk and I be ho-humming and sing-songing and I don't even realize why I'm doing all that stuff, and I think it must be because I'm crazy, and I just realize I'm so dang happy. That's cool. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing for him, and that is a success for him. But the majority of these people on the majority of the people out here in the streets, they're not like that. They lived much rougher than, and I don't mean rougher than what a veteran experiences. First off, shouts out to veterans. Nothing but love and respect for you guys. And I know that you have experienced some things that some of those people will never experience. But in the same token, so have they. Once again, all the emotional abuses, the things, the substances and all that stuff, These people are these people have problems that have to be addressed. That even if we put them in a home, even if we put them in a free home, the mentality, we have to get them to be productive members of society. It's not just about homefulness. It's about what are you going to do to contribute to the United States of America so that the next person doesn't fall into the same thing that you have fallen into. Because I want to be the nice guy who has infinite magical homes to pull from the sky, plop right down on this infinite amount of land that we know we have on this totally finite planet, and say anytime you need a home, boop, I'll just make one appear like a GTA cheat code. But the truth of the matter is that eventually somebody's going to have to make those homes. And eventually somebody will have to source the materials to build those homes. And eventually somebody will have to provide the power for those homes. And with all of those things, it builds a system that we call infrastructure. And for infrastructure to be able to be maintained, it requires manpower. Until we get robots to be smart enough that they don't need us anymore, then we have bigger issues to worry about. But as far as right now, while the main infrastructures of the power grid, water supply, and things like that in the United States are run by humans, we pretty much require humans to run them. So while we can just provide things for people who need them, that sounds like such a simple answer. But would that actually solve homelessness? Placing one person into a home, will that solve the 2 more people who are displaced from homes after that? And then eventually it's like you put a hole, like, you know, on the cartoons when they would be like filling up a dam or something like that, they plug one hole on the dam with a piece of duct tape and then 2 more holes like pop open. And it's like, oh no, now I got 2 more. They pop open those 2 more and then another one pops up. That's what it's going to be like if you just give homeless people homes. But see, the thing is, duct tape rolls are only so long. So eventually, after I plug so many holes in the dam, I'm going to run out of duct tape. And what do I have to do? I have to go to the duct tape store to go get more duct tape. But what do I do when nobody's there working, manufacturing duct tape? Nobody's there selling the duct tape. Nobody is there to provide the duct tape or make it. It doesn't exist anymore. Basically, I know that I'm really going into a stream of consciousness right now. And if what I'm saying doesn't make sense, please just comment on here and ask me to elaborate on any of it, because I promise you that there is a point to it. But what I'm saying is that we are going to have to focus on getting these people rehabilitated, not just homed. Home is not the answer to homelessness. Rehabilitation is the answer to homelessness. And I'm not just talking about in the regards of substance abuse. Rehabilitation of the mentality of humans so that they can become productive members of society once again is what is super important. We have to get them ready to stop. We have to get ahead of the issue. If we just, continually putting a bandage on it, we're going to eventually decay into nothingness. We have to get it set up so that these homeless people are not just homeful, but so homeful that they're prepared to go out and create homes, create jobs, create opportunities for the next generation of people who are going through the same turmoil that they experienced. Once we go ahead and defeat that cycle, then we will truly tackle homelessness. But you know what that's going to require? It's going to require something much deeper than what we are experiencing here in the United States at this performative level of giving a fuck about other Americans. It's performative. It's not real. We don't intrinsically care. If we did, we wouldn't have this binary system where we play this sport every 4 years. And literally, now the consequences of this sport that we play are getting much more dire. That's why I'm making videos like this. Because every person, nobody wants to be political. Nobody likes talking about politics, especially in as nasty of an environment as it has become. But the truth of the matter is, if we allow the people who are pushing these narratives on either side, polarizing the United States into left and right, extreme violence, racism and bigotry and all these things like that, and just all these freaking imaginary things, we're losing sight of the moderate people who actually care. We're losing sight of America itself. This is literally cutting off your nose to spite your face at the highest level happening here in the United States right now. And it's so bad that I have to start talking about it. I'm not some doomsayer. I'm not a person wearing a tinfoil hat. I'm not talking about what fake things about the goddamn cabal or the Illuminati or any of this stuff, or conspiracies and the racism and all that stuff, because all those things are It's so obvious what's going on in the United States that if we just go towards the middle, it'll all make so much more sense. I'm tired of being told that we have to live in fear about this person and that person trying to destroy our country. I'm tired of having things like homelessness propagandized against us to make us feel like there are simple solutions to these nuanced issues. And I'm really tired because I'm perfectly fine. I can see and I can smell the bullshit. Fortunately, because of the experiences that I had, especially in the realm when we're talking about homelessness once again. But for all of the issues that I've seen the left and the right butcher and just really just try and run with their own narrative on it, it's letting me know that if we continue to let those sources be the only people speaking about what's going on here, then they will be the only voices, and that will be amplified, and people will continue to go down these paths to these echo chambers where they only hear the information that they want validated, regurgitated to them. And we won't improve. And we will always be choosing between the lesser of two evils. Like us as Americans sit there and be like, oh, I just got to choose from the lesser of two evils. Who put them there? Who is it? Who's daddy? Who is America's daddy who chose these people? Oh, wait, we did. And the millions of dollars that they put forth to get in our faces. But at the end of the day, we choose them. So when you talk about the lesser of two evils, those evils got there because they care the most. Politicians, nobody wants to talk about politics. Nobody wants to talk about politics. You want to leave it up to the politicians. But these politicians, the people who aim to be politicians, the people who are running towards this fucking burning building are the shittiest fucking people, and that's why we're dealing with it. There's gonna be a certain point in time where fucking Atlas is going to have to pick his shoulders up, okay, and put the world back on there. And that's us. We are Atlas. We do this. If you want to have the freedom to make the choices in your day-to-day life, and you say that you don't want the government, telling you what to do in this aspect or telling you what to do in that aspect, we have to all be trusted with a certain level of competence and responsibility, knowing that we're actually working towards progressing society for our country. If we have that understanding and respect with each other, then we can start to build and develop. But until then, we're literally just arguing, fighting, and we're destroying everything. This is it's like domestic violence right now. It's like a domestic dispute in a household. And we just knocking down the walls and Johnny Depp's ex-wife is taking a shit on the bed over there and we're over here freaking lighting firecrackers in the living room and we're abolishing the police and stuff like that. We're literally destroying the home that we live in. America's about to be homeless. I guess that's the end of my point that I'm trying to get at here. This one was super loose because this was unstructured, because I'm just like, anybody who saw my Instagram stories and stuff like that, it's like, that's what I'm thinking about. And I posted those earlier today just because I can't wait for somebody to tell me how unqualified I am to speak on this. I'm an American, I'm an intelligent person, I'm a black man. I was homeless. I experienced this life as an American every single day. And I pay very close attention to the things that are going on around us. And I think about them, and I like to talk about them. Most of the time it's to myself, but I'm choosing to open up a little bit more about that because maybe that's my purpose here. Maybe I do understand something a little bit differently than other people do. And that's not a God complex. It's just understanding that each of us have an individual role and a part to play in life. So that's my 2 cents on homelessness. John Oliver, if you ever see this, man, I don't believe that it was you personally who made that story, like wrote it from scratch, but you guys need to do better with just talking about making homes. Like, I get that you only have a finite amount of minutes and seconds that you can say whatever liberal stuff that you want to say, and you got to get it off, and it's got to be cheeky enough that people come back and keep watching you guys. But I think that was not very well thought out. It was more performative than anything. It wasn't a real solution. It was just like, duh, 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 duh. People wouldn't be homeless if Trump didn't exist, if Trump didn't, duh, 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 duh. And I'm just so tired of that. Do better. Do better, America. Like homeless people, dislike homeless people, whatever you feel about them, it's fine. Not all people are the same, whether they're on the street or not. Some of them are dangerous, especially the machete wielding ones. I wouldn't recommend that you go up there and just try and give them a hug. But I say all that to say that we have to look at them as people before we look at them as homeless people, if we want to go ahead and remove homeless from the description. All right, I'm going to go back in the house now. I got to cook dinner. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Yeah, I'm going to be working on doing more stuff like this, but it has to be allowed. I have to be allowed to just do it in these kind of formats, bro. As far as right now, I'm not sitting down behind a desk. This is not the day.